hosts, Karen Klaus and former Bexar County District Attorney Nico Jorge.
1200 WOAI. This is Sidebar. Please go to sidebartv.com to get on social media, watch during and after the show. We have an after show, and we love reading your comments during the show and after, and we would also really encourage you to consider becoming a contributor to the show. It keeps things going, and everybody needs to do that in order for us to continue this show. You have no idea how much money it takes every single week to get this thing on the road.
They don't need to do it. You're not a communist, are you?
No, I'm just trying to tell people, if my kids don't eat, no, I'm just kidding. This week, we're going to be talking about President Trump, cracking down on violent crime. There's also a push now to overturn same-sex marriage. And I have to tell you, I've been checked out pretty much all week because I've been so busy, and I can't wait to hear the details on that one. And if it goes to the Supreme Court. And hopefully we're going to get an overview or a feeling for what people are talking about when it comes to the 2026 midterms. Every week, if you come here and you know us, you know to expect former Bexar County DA Nico Jorge, trial lawyer, managing partner of LaHood Norton Law Group, and of course, George Araujo, scholar, former chemist, and pharmaceutical researcher and director. And it's kind of funny because at the same time, President Trump is there meeting with the president of Russia, Putin. He's also ordering the deployment of 800 National Guard troops onto the streets of the Capitol, trying to clean up the crime there, while the Democrats are saying there's really no such thing as crime. It's really hard for me to understand how they can step forward and have that as something that's real when people are talking left and right about getting carjacked and.
Yeah, I don't think it's hard to understand. I mean, they've been, I don't know if it's new strategy that they have. I don't know if they think it's going to benefit them.
What is the strategy? I don't get it.
To continue to choose the 20% of 80-20 issues. I mean, Trump should love that. Republicans should like that. I don't know anyone who lives in D.C., and you're seeing it even on Morning Joe and all them. Scarborough's reading a text he got from a buddy. I mean, what did the polls say? 90% of people, rough numbers, believe that crime is a problem, and almost 60% thinks it's a serious problem. I mean, that's just a losing argument. D.C. is one of the most violent capital cities in the world. We have diplomats there. We have world leaders there. And you want a safe D.C. And I don't go to D.C. often. I've only been there twice, once or twice. I don't know. But, I mean, I would love to go back. I'll tell you, I avoid it because it is dangerous. I don't want to go take my kids over there. And people talk about how, once the sun goes down, you better get into your hotel or your house, and even then you're not safe. I mean, so I just think this is a losing issue for the Democrats. I think it's ridiculous. It's distracting. I think it's desperate because it's like, what is your position? To resist Trump? No, but what are you going to do for the American people? Resist Trump? Well, it's like, man, come up with an idea and let's analyze your idea and let's talk about it and share your thoughts on it. But I just think this is a losing issue for them, and I don't understand why they want to take it, but Republicans should like it, and Trump should love it as well. It's not like Trump. Look, Trump's going to go from 5% support to 10% support. He's not doing this for himself. I mean, I think he's doing it because, the president's safe in D.C. Any president is. But what about the people and the diplomats? Nobody wants people to come, world leaders, to come to your capital, and it looks like a third world country. I'm not being a little hyperbolic there, but I'm just saying that it's not safe and that the reputation sucks. So, I mean, good for Trump to do this. I think more people were thinking it, and he just has the balls to do it.
And that's a great way to end that. Thank you.
Can we say cuyans? Can I not say balls, Kurt?
I love it.
Kurt says yes, you can.
Oh, thanks, Kurt.
I love what you said about the 80-20. Trump seems to be getting pretty close, if he hasn't already mastered the art of pushing Democrats into defending those 20% issues, Nico. Time and time again, he seems to be able to do that. And I'm just thinking about what happened with the LA riots. These are issues that are very popular with American voters. If you go back to 2024 election, crime I realize was immigration and economic growth, but crime was right up there. And what concerned American wouldn't be concerned about stopping violent crime? And let's just go back to the beginning for a quick moment, Nico. Trump campaigned on this.
Yeah.
He campaigned on reining in violent crime, not just generally, but also in D.C. He was particularly concerned about it, and he was pretty explicit about what he would do if DC Council and Mayor Bowser wouldn't take the situation seriously. When they announced this on August 11th this week, they threw out a bunch of stats. I don't know if people have availed themselves of those stats. I get the criticism, well, they're White House stats. I get it. But the White House went and got stats from somewhere, and that was interesting to me. So it was a report from the Rochester Institute of Technology. That's where the stats came. And that showed that evaluated 24 blue cities. And lo and behold, wherever there's just rampant crime, hold on to something as I say this, it's a Democrat-run city. And so where there's smoke, there's usually fire, or it's pretty close by. And so there seems to be a pattern of policies that seem to contribute to this. And we had to step back and say, what's contributing to this? It's not happening by happenstance. You know, show me a behavior and I'll show you a reward system, right? So this is happening because there are policies in place that are producing this mayhem. So Trump's been talking about it for a while, and he's been warning about this for a while. And he went back to data to show that it's something like 27.3 people per 100,000. This is a useful statistic because it takes cities that have a ton of people and cities that have just a little bit of people and puts everybody on a fair playground. And this is pretty serious. And then he compared it not just to other violent cities across the country. I mean, this is number 4 on the list of 24, but he also compared it to other violent cities across the world. Okay, so what do we do about this? Nothing? Is status quo okay? No, it's not.
Yeah, but I think he's also sending a message that he's taking this serious, and it hopefully will encourage other cities and really show the citizens, because it's not if, it's when he's going to get this cleaned up. Look what he did with the border, and he's inspired other countries to do what he did with their border. I mean, so if Trump does this with D.C., how do other cities, blue cities run by Democrats, say you can't? Look at Newsom. What is it? The people from Asia or China, wherever they came in, and they cleaned up the city, and that snake oil salesman is admitted that he said, yeah, it's because they're coming in. Well, why can't you do this for us? Forget about them. Why don't you do it for your own citizens? I don't know why they keep electing that fool, but all I'm saying is I think he's showing a model that, not that you're going to get federal troops, but you have National Guard, you have law enforcement agencies that just need to be unleashed. Now, there's always an overcorrection. I always tell people I'm worried about the overcorrection. I don't want a bunch of National Guardsmen or federal agents on every corner with AR-15s, long rifles, sitting there on the corners, because under the wrong leadership, that can be a problem, and that could be the new normal. So he says it's for 30 days. He's declared an emergency, and let's see what happens from it. But I think it should be welcomed overall. Of course, there's some cautiousness that I have, but I'm optimistic about it.
And people are asking, where does this authority come from? We should just touch briefly on that. That comes from the Home Rule Act of 1973.
It's a congressional city, yeah.
Which is specific to Washington, D.C., a capital in the state. I mean, obviously, it's a national seat of power, so it has a special import.
He can't do this with other cities. It's only with D.C.
I wondered about that. Okay, got it.
It's interesting. That's an open question around. I'm genuinely curious about it because this is particular to D.C., and so he has a venue there. I'm curious. There's a lot of debate going on that. It may very well be true, but I'm curious about that only because he's saying he's looking at other cities right now that are just sort of inundated with violent crime. But what are the numbers? It's something like 800 National Guardsmen. What is their function? Well, they can't arrest people, but they can detain them until law enforcement gets there to do whatever it is that law enforcement needs to do. So it's 800 National Guard. But I thought it was interesting, too, that he called out, or he brought in some 500 law enforcement officers from across the country to augment the 3,000 strong police force, the Metropolitan Police Force. So he's serious about this. He's got 30 days. I think you mentioned that, right? At first, it's 48 hours, and then he lets Congress know that he's going to stick around for another 30 days, and he can request an extension after that.
Right.
He has indicated that he may very well need to do that. And so you said something interesting. They can go too far. Mm-hmm. I wonder if you thought about what that looks like here.
It looks
because
like,
they're saying he's already gone too far by even raising.
It looks like the FBI coming into a school board meeting calling parents domestic terrorists. It looks like people getting arrested on the opposite side of the street just because they're praying at an abortion on the opposite side of the street. It looks like that person that got arrested for praying on the opposite side of a street, needing a juror of his peers to acquit the man. That's what it looks like. But then when you put guns in it and you bring it in military, just play it out.
I'm only asking because the National Guard now has guns and they're present. I mean,
but and it depends on under what leadership they're under. I mean, the National Guard is the National Guard. I'm just worried. Again, play this out. Be careful the world you help create, because someday you may have to live in it. And I'm just saying, under a President AOC, what could we do?
But they don't like guns, so they won't have guns.
Yeah, no. It's hypocrisy.
I may be finding some false comfort in this statement from my brother Nico. So it does matter which investigators.
You remember that? Who are these investigators you trust so much,
explain.
George?
Not exactly what you said. You said it with some. You said it with some emphasis.
Well, it was the after show, so
I still laugh about that.
Who are these people you trust in the government, George?
So I think people are wondering right now, what's the red line? It's a legit question.
Well, it's the question to me remains if the people of the area in D.C. are saying, thank you, we needed this, thank you for helping us, while their representatives are saying, what are you talking about? We don't need this. Get out of here. How is that ever going to gel? How can that ever, come to say, okay, you're representing us. How can you go against what we're saying? That's the confusion I have. Okay, we're going to take a break. George, you're not talking. I didn't interrupt you this time. But we will be right back. Remember, go to sidebartv.com, get on social media. We'll be right back with more on Sidebar.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
1200 WOAI. Go to sidebartv.com. Join us on social media. One thing that I thought about when I heard the news that you were just talking about during the break, George, and that is, remember a long time ago, when during the COVID era, when someone would get hit by a car and they would put in the records, died by COVID. And then somebody would have a heart attack, died from COVID. And there was the reporting really skewed the numbers on how many people were actually dying of COVID. And then I heard the story that you were talking about on people saying, crime is down in D.C. I don't get what is the big deal? But then I heard the other story, the other side, that it was in how the crimes were being reported in D.C. or the
how
little information that they were leaving out.
Well, there's two things. I mean, George was talking about how it's being reported, so he's getting into the bean counting. But also, you got a 30-year crime spike. So that's like saying build back better. Well, you made it worse, so you can't make it worse and then make it a little bit better and then get the credit for it. You're the one that burned down the barn. You don't get credit for framing it back up. So that there's a little bit of that going on, too. So you got this 35-year spike in crime, and then whatever data that they manipulated, if it was manipulated, and there's, I guess, some questions on whether that chief was entering false information.
There's a commander, Michael Pulliam, that is under administrative leave right now, D.C. Now, the D.C. police union has been complaining about corrupted data for a while. So Nico's right, and this is an important point because it's where it starts, what you said, and that is that there's a 30-year spike as of 2023. But you see a downward shift in 2024, and they're calling that downward shift into question because of alleged evidence that there is manipulation of data by this Michael Pulliam, who has since sued the police department for under the Equal Employment Opportunity Act. So there's an investigation going on right now, and there's legitimate reasons to believe that the data has been doctored. So anyway, so that when the Democrats say, what are you talking about? This is much ado about nothing. I mean, crime rate's going down. Got to go back to Nico's starting point, which is, wait a minute, this is a 30-year spike in 2023 with lots of questions about the 2024 data. And the reality is that the proof's in the pudding. You do have actual cases that have been reported, have been in the news. I mean, congressional interns taking knives to the chest, getting shot. I mean, this is happening with much more regularity. Again, this is the nation's capital. We should be projecting law and order and power from the nation's capital, and the exact opposite is being projected. Trump is legitimately concerned about that, and he's been again. I just want to go back to this. He campaigned on this. Let that sink in. He campaigned on this concern nationally and specifically, and he's following through on that. So if you didn't like it, you shouldn't have voted for it. That's just that simple. Let's start there. And then the question is, to your point, I think, Nico, is, well, how's he doing it to make sure that we don't go too far? And so far, he's playing within the rules of the game. But just a couple of stats from that report: 27.54 right now deaths per 100,000 in Washington D.C. And Bogota, for instance, a violent city. Bogota, Colombia, homicide rate of 15.1 per 100,000. Mexico City has a homicide rate of 10.6 per 100,000. So D.C. is more than 2.5 times of that. So we just got to step back and say, okay, this is ridiculous, man. It's a meat grinder. That's just completely not acceptable. Now, I'm originally from the Northeast. I've loved going to Washington, D.C. for lots of reasons. Do you remember? I mean, I don't know if that happens here in Texas, but I hear of schools who fly students there for the educational opportunity.
Sure.
I mean, I've been there many, many times for lots of reasons.
I don't think
I've been
they
there
do
for business.
that. I don't know if many schools that do. I wouldn't let my kid go. Not without me.
Okay, but see, listen to that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, it's not crazy that you're saying
No,
it.
I
It's
know what you mean.
reasonable.
I know what you mean.
But that's completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
They ought to be able to go to D.C. and share in the rich history of the country
100%.
and the institutions that govern the country and the proud. I mean, why can't they do that? Because it's violent as hell. And after dark, forget about it.
How about that one representative that said he doesn't even wear his seatbelt while he's driving around because he doesn't want the risk of getting caught in his car with a seatbelt while it's going to get carjacked? It's like, what?
Well, Henry Cuellar got attacked.
Henry
Yeah.
Cuellar, where is he? I haven't heard from him. I mean, it's just...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Henry Cuellar got assaulted.
I just want to know, like, how are they manipulating these numbers? What I heard is that if there is a person that dies of a gunshot wound, violent crime, that they just leave the gun part out. They'll just put a person was assaulted and went to the hospital, and period. That's the end of the story. Because how else can you manipulate these numbers about crime? And how can you say it's going down when it's going up?
I would encourage people to look up what the D.C. police union is saying about that, because they're explanatory in their claims. They actually get into what they're doing. They're calling certain crimes that should be under certain classifications under a lower classification of violence, and so then that obviously skews the data. That's the basic claim. Quote. This is NBC4 Washington says, quote, the union claims police supervisors in the department manipulate crime data to make it appear violent crime has fallen considerably compared to last year, end of quote. And then it goes on to show the various ways in which that happens.
That's alarming, I guess. I know that this is not a topic, but I mean, we have to talk about Trump and Putin and that meeting, because while all of this is going on, and mind you, is it like 7 months that he's been in office? While all of this cleanup in D.C. is going on, and he's building a ballroom, and he's trying to do 1 million things, he is in Alaska with Putin. And is there some significance there? I mean, what I heard in the beginning is that there was supposed to be a press conference right after they met, and then Trump just got back on his plane, and then
they had a press conference.
He had one later.
Yeah, no. I mean, they met, and the criticism I heard was that Putin spoke first, and he's not the host. Trump should have gone first. I don't know. Look, Trump is an alpha man. I mean, you can just tell by the
Look
way
at the handshake.
The handshake.
Right.
He's pulling into it. I thought Putin stayed distance away from him. I thought it was interesting. Like he stayed on his carpet and he was like reaching over, and he's a shorter dude. But and then Trump just like, get over here, I mean, look, Trump's not a physical fighter. Putin will kick his ass in a fight. I mean, Putin, trained Samba, and he's a KGB guy. But Trump mentally is tougher. I mean, and Trump has all the cards when he's talking about negotiating what he could do to their common and primary sanctions and secondary sanctions. And he's really isolated. I mean, look, Trump would have been a great mafia boss. I mean, he's just the way he conducts himself, the way he talks, the way he doesn't show this, the way he distracts people, the way he makes you chase a shiny object. But so Trump is definitely, as Putin shakes his hand, talk about the timing of those B-14s. What are they? B-whatevers? Those planes of B-2s?
That was genius.
Well, I mean, look, he could probably say, I wanted to make sure the airspace was safe, but he's showing his balls, man. I mean, he's saying, hey, look here. These are probably the same planes that destroyed Iran's nuclear system, but it was a show of strength, right? So Putin speaking first. I mean, I don't know. I guess whatever. Trump spoke last. Trump was just very tempered. He seemed he didn't oversell. He didn't take any questions, and I think that was the right thing to do. That is not very Trumpian for him not to take a million questions and to overtalk. But I think it's because nothing had been done. He goes, look, you don't have a deal until you have a deal. And he says, we agreed on a lot of things. There were some major things we didn't agree on. And let's see if we're working towards it. But he thought it was a 10 out of a 10 in a relationship, which is interesting, which, look, take it for what it's worth. I mean, the guy's a KGB guy, meaning Putin. You can't trust him. He's a liar. He's a master manipulator. He's a murderer. I got all that. I mean, what are you going to do? You either blow him up or you try to get him to come to the table and stop killing Ukrainians and vice versa. So, I think Trump did exactly what Trump wanted to do. I think he did well, and let's see what happens moving forward. But I'm not encouraged that it's going to do anything yet. I want to see what happens. But I believe Zelensky said he wants to meet now, and he's okay with it.
I think that's what Trump said in the press conference. He said, "Look, this is not the end. It's not the beginning. We're in the middle of this. There's no deal yet." He said he was very optimistic about some things that had been achieved. He wasn't optimistic about others, and that it would need further work. I thought, and I'm surprised this has been underreported. I mean, I'm not surprised, but I say that rhetorically, but we're not going to underreport it here because it's a big deal. It was just funny. I think the most significant, I was trying to find a direct quote from Putin, but basically, you remember during the 24 presidential campaign,
yeah, I know what you're going to say.
Trump had said that during his second term that he was, that the Russian-Ukraine war, when Trump was campaigning for his second term, he said, look, there's no way this would have happened under my watch. I mean, it just wouldn't. And so had I been in office, and so he blamed, of course, Biden for terribly weak leadership. And then he sat there and said, and Putin agreed. Putin said he's right.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to find out what Putin actually said, and I found it. Quote, in 2022, during the last contact with the previous administration, I tried to convince my previous American colleague, this is Putin talking, that the situation should not be brought to the point of no return when it should come to hostilities. I said it quite directly that it's a big mistake today when President Trump says if he was the president back then, there would be no war. I'm quite sure it would indeed be so. End of quote.
Wow.
Yeah, but Trump said that he explained why he said that, because the one thing about Trump that I think is a legitimate criticism is you compliment him a little bit and he just, melts. I mean, so he loves compliments, and I get it. Now, I'm not saying he gets bamboozled by it, but I mean, it just seems like it, it kind of puffs him up a little bit. But Trump didn't seem, he just didn't seem to overreact to that. He's like, okay, and now I understand, and I have no way to prove this or not, that Putin explained why in their meeting, why that was the case. Now, did he do that strategic? Look, when you're dealing with a KGB dude or a CIA, I distrust and over-verify. You don't trust anything they say. I don't trust Putin worth the crap.
Oh, for sure. But Trump doesn't hesitate to be heavy-handed. That's the point.
No, he'll do it. He can.
And he's also unpredictably heavy-handed, which is very powerful.
Good. Great for negotiating.
And then the economic power of the United States, and that's again another under-discussed issue. Remember, Trump said going into this, there will be serious consequences if we can't achieve peace, and this is levied directly at Russia, and those consequences, and I believe they're real. I believe they have significant teeth, and maybe he bought himself some time. That is Putin in this meeting, because the idea, look, Russia floats on oil, period.
Yeah.
And right now, interestingly and ironically, they sell a lot of their oil to the European Union. And yes, to China. And the United States, under Trump, is once again regaining its position as a number one net exporter of energy, not just natural gas, but indeed oil. If the United States, and I'm not saying if, this is, I think, an inevitability, if the United States can threaten that, in fact, they become the supplier rather than Putin, the guy's sunk. He has nowhere to go. Not only can he not support a war, good luck supporting an economy. So this is a real threat with real teeth, and I think Trump is keeping his powder dry. But, man, it is an enormous threat with significant
Well, Trump has all the cards, like he says, because Putin's military isn't all that cracked up to be. It's like the guy that talked a bunch of crap, kind of like the Conor McGregor of the world, and then people started knocking him out and beating him. It's like, okay, all your showboating worked at first, and your threat because you backed it up at first. But then the first person knocks you out, and then the second person, and now it's like, yeah, you're a formidable fighter, but you're not what you said you were, or at least we found your weakness. I think that's where Putin's at. I mean, he should have. People thought it was going to be a 3-day war, not a 3-year war.
I remember, yes.
I mean, and look, for as much as I don't like Zelensky, and I think he's a con artist and a flamboyant dancer, ballet boy.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
At some point, Putin's going to have to ask, is this worth it? I mean, I've made some gains in Ukraine, but is it worth the meat grinder?
Yeah.
Okay, so every party that holds the White House thinks that they're going to buck the tide, and I'm talking about the midterms. And every year, pretty much, they don't. And I guess there's been a couple of years that they did buck the tide, and that was Bill Clinton and George Bush. So let's get your ideas on the popularity of Trump, and if it's going to have any kind of factoring when it comes to the midterms. We are going to take a break right now. Stick with us right here on WOAI and also at sidebartv.com, social media. We will be right back with more on Sidebar.
San Antonio's news, weather, traffic, plus breaking news 24/7. This is News Radio 1200 WOAI from the GiveMeTheVin.com Sell Us Your Cars studio.
I'm Eric Like. I'm at News Radio 1200 WOAI. More flooding could happen this morning in areas that were smacked by the deadly July 4th floods. Details coming up. First, traffic and weather together.
The WOAI Traffic Center.
Drivers, keep an eye for some road construction on the far northwest side. That's going to be closing down eastbound I-10 between La Cantera Parkway and Loop 1604. Then over on the east side, we have some more road construction, and that's going to be closing down southbound Loop 410 between I-10 and Rigsby. I'm Carson Parnell, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
Looking for a high of 91 showers in, but we've got showers now and 76 at the WOAI 24-hour weather center. Our top story, a flood watch is in effect for counties west of San Antonio, including Kerr, Real, Uvalde, Bandera, and Medina counties until 7 o'clock tonight. Up to 4 inches of rain could fall in those watch areas. President Trump met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska yesterday. No ceasefire deal was announced. Oklahoma Republican Senator Markwayne Mellon tells Fox's Hannity he believes the Russian president agreed to talk because of the U.S. threat of consequences.
Putin fears the economic impact, and the only country that can have an economic impact and force other countries to do so is the United States.
President Trump has set an additional 25% tariff on India. He suggested he would not set new tariffs against China. News on demand at WOAI.com. Our next update, top of the hour, breaking information as it happens. I'm Eric Lycom on San Antonio's news, weather, and traffic station. News Radio 1200 WOAI.
This report is sponsored by iHeartAdvertising.com.
Run a business and not thinking about podcasting? Think again. More Americans listen to podcasts than ad-supported streaming music from Spotify and Pandora. And as the #1 podcaster, iHeart's twice as large as the next two combined. Learn how podcasting can help your business. Call 844-844-iHeart.
WOAI. Please join us for the after show. Go to sidebartv.com, go to social media, and also please consider contributing to the show. You can do so on that first page, sidebartv.com. So apparently the midterms are something big And the system has only been bucked when the president was super popular. Clinton was, Bush was, and if you watch the regular news, what is it? Donald Trump is not popular. And everybody's talking about how Biden has like a negative 26 rating, but it's not much better for Trump. That his ratings are like in the negatives too. Well, there's that thing called fake news. I get it, but does the fake news really factor in when it comes to voting for the midterms, do you think?
I mean, I'll let George talk about the polls and all that. I don't know.
Right.
How Trump can be underwater like that. But I mean, if he is. The midterms, it's about the economy, stupid. I'm not calling you stupid, you know that. But I'm just saying that's just the way it is. And right now, it's not the best economy we've ever had.
Correct.
It's definitely not the worst. It's good. I mean, growth is modest. Inflation's under control. We've had better job markets, but I mean, it's still good. I mean, things are good. I mean, and the second part or the last part of his plan hasn't even been implemented when he finishes those rest of those deals. So there's a synergistic effect to his plan that hasn't truly synergized yet. So we just got to kind of wait. So the economy needs to be good, or at least perceived as not bad. And I think he'll do well. And so, but we're a long way off, man. I mean, we talk about takes a little short time for for some type of scandal or some type of
but
serious
as you
situation.
have said, I mean, it could ruin a whole lot of plans if it doesn't go the way of the Republicans, and things
Trump
will
be
not
stopped.
be right.
Look, the Dems have an enthusiasm gap problem, right? So there's not a lot of enthusiasm. They just have a lot of hatred towards Trump. And so it's interesting, they're starving for attention. They're trying to find their footing. They don't really have a clear leader. I don't know what they're campaigning on other than Trump sucks, which, okay, I guess. I just don't know what that does for me. If let's say hypothetically Trump does suck, okay, check. Let's just put that enter that into the record. Then what does that do for me? And how does that help me and my family and you and your family and America as a whole? How does that help us with Russia and Iran and all the other stuff and stop people from coming in off the border? So I don't know. Define what sucks means. Yeah. And then number two, what are you going to do to replace that suckness?
I read somewhere the good news for Republicans is nobody likes the Democrats. Not even the Democrats like the Democrats right now.
But do they not like the Democrats more than they hate Trump? I mean, so it's going to be what's your net return on that deal. So I don't know. I mean, because dislike can go a long way.
I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic if you're a conservative. Certainly no reason to sit on your ass and not do anything. Definitely don't get comfortable. But I go back to that Wall Street Journal poll that you and I texted about a couple of weeks ago. I really think that that's an important sort of beachhead here.
When was it from when?
To do an analysis on the midterms. The data was analyzed between July 16th and July 20th, but it's very comprehensive. And it's looking at really sort of how voters feel about the Democrats. Because, I mean, I realize we could talk about Trump ad nauseum. By the way, just go to I think Real Clear Politics is sort of the best of the worst. They look at literally over a dozen polls, and it's literally a weekly thing, and in some cases daily, and they're constantly refreshing those numbers. And Trump seems, the bad news for Trump is that he's sometimes in a low, I'm going to say 43, 44%. But usually he's at about 46%, 47%. And according to Rasmussen, and I keep coming back to Rasmussen, because they've been accurate a lot of times. And so they're part of that polling mix. And they have him at about 48, 49%. So anyway, I think...
Is that normal for presidents to be...
there's nothing... he's fine. He's
fine.
Where
was Obama at this time?
Or Obama was slightly higher. Obama was slightly higher. But I'd love to wax eloquent on Trump here, Nico, but I think that Trump's not running against himself. First of all, he's not even going to, he's not really on the ballot. You could argue he is because he's the incumbent as president. But if you're going to look at a decent analysis of this, I mean, how are the Democrats doing? The Republicans aren't running against themselves. How are the Democrats doing? The Wall Street Journal poll says that the net favorability among voters for the Democrat Party is the lowest it's been in 30 years. So you've got something like a 33% net favorability.
But what does that translate into voting, though? That's the issue for me. Well, so why are they saying Trump's approval rating is low? What do people not like about him? Because he's not as bombastic. What's the word? He's not as bad as he was the first time he was in office. He's a lot what is it, George?
Bombastic.
Bombastic. Thank you. There's a song that has that, right? Yeah, that's right. That song. Is that song? But I mean, but what I'm saying. So what is it with him? Because he seems more tempered. I mean, yeah, he's more. I mean, I guess he's firm. But I don't know. I just don't see him. It's not as unlikable as the first time. It seems to me. But maybe I'm biased.
Yeah, the two issues are probably the same ones. Not probably, but according to the reports that I'm reading, but the same things we discussed about 3 or 4 weeks ago when we were talking about
Big Beautiful Bill.
And that's kind of settled in. People have kind of embraced it.
Hold on, what are they?
ICE, immigration, immigration enforcement. There's an truly overwhelming amount of support for clamping down on illegal immigration. There was some question about how Trump was doing it in terms of its sort of the aggressive posture of ICE in LA. At the end of the day, the polls were up, then they took a trough, and then they peaked again. You know, it sort of weathered the storm. That in fact, at the end of the day, Trump wasn't there to be some dictator. He was there to rein in illegality, and he did. And it's uncomfortable, and it's painful, and everything doesn't go perfect, and there's always lessons learned. If you do a postmortem, if things, you know, there's always opportunity for improvement. But at the end of the day, the voters are on board with that.
I think it shows how finicky people are. Because it's not like this is a surprise. He ran on this. He said this, and then he does it, and then he's effective, and he's good at it. And then people, I think, in their mind, I'm thinking of the book of Judges, right? It's like up and down, and they need 12 judges to save their asses because they repent, and it's really false repentance, and they're appreciative, and then they go back to doing their own. It's like a recidivism rate, right, of mindset, just repeating over and over again the same thing. And then now they're comfortable because now the border is controlled. Well, now the border is taken care of. So now, you know, because I think, not that he's the standard bearer, but you see someone who's empathetic like Joe Rogan, who seems to have lost, you know, Trump has lost his support in this area. And I think he reflects. That's why he reflects a lot of people's, I think, feelings.
Like I said, your call, but I didn't want to go down the Trump thing because this is a whole other discussion that you're bringing up because there's two issues to immigration, and you know that. And the first one is border crossing.
Sure, yes.
So the amount of encounters was the lowest on record in June. You literally had 0 compared to something like 28,000 last year at the same time. So that issue has been effectively resolved.
I 100%
Okay, so the bleeding has stopped. Then there's the other question. The other question of what do we do with the people that are here and the deportation policy and then the shots of the national media on ICE. And it's true. They've said, listen, the attacks on ICE have compounded to something like 800% more than they've ever been. And so what's going on? And so there's the perspective, sort of the perception of ICE as, you know, are they jackbooted thugs pulling innocent people out of their places of work, even though they're illegal? I thought they were going to focus on violent crime. So the reality is both things are true. They did focus on violent crime. They did go after thugs and alien criminals. That's true. But Tom Homan has said from the very beginning, he said, look, if we are aware of individuals who are illegal in a province, in a municipality, in a state, anywhere, we're not going to blow that off. We're going to address it. And so it's those issues that I think have given people pause.
Right.
You know, because I think people want it, but to your point, it's like, wow, I didn't realize he was going to be this serious. But then people sit back and say, you know what? This is not a bad idea. Do I want illegal aliens here? Even people who are quote unquote law-abiding, they came in and they broke the law. There ought to be some sort of consequence for that. And I think Americans are settling into that, but I think it jolted them at first how serious this initiative was. So those things and the way the national media are reporting on it have impacted his numbers. What I was trying to share is that the Democrats I think they're in very, very weak standing right now. And you ought to avail yourself. There's a piece on Newsmax that I think does this a lot of justice. Democrats in crisis as approval ratings plummet. And they do a really good analysis of the Wall Street. If you don't want to read the Wall Street Journal report like I did, which might sedate you, go to this piece on Newsmax, Democrats in crisis as approval ratings plummet. It's out by Robert Simonson, and he just put it out August 13th this week.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to understand all this. I'm just trying to understand it because, you know, because I want us to be successful. I want Trump's agenda to be successful. I supported it, and I think overall, I mean, obviously no agenda is going to be implemented perfectly. There's a lot of you know, mistakes and things that could have been done better, but it's focused. He's done a lot in 7 months, you know, 8 months, almost 8 months. He's done a lot. I'm looking forward to him doing more, and I really don't want what he's doing because the majority of people voted for it to be thwarted. And if the Republicans don't win the midterms, That's it.
What Nico said is really the heart of the Wall Street Journal analysis.
Oh, okay, I didn't even read it.
Well, because what they're doing is they're not just throwing out numbers, they're saying, what are the policy categories that people are concerned about?
Yeah.
So when voters are looking at Democrats, there's a 33% net favorability. The Republicans are higher than that to the tune of double digits. That's a good place to be.
Okay.
In terms, so it's 33-63. And the Democrats
on issues. Okay.
So they looked at 10 policy categories, and in 8 of 10 policy categories that they surveyed, voters trust Republicans more than Democrats. That's where we stand right now. And then you said something earlier about enthusiasm and how if the vote was if votes were taken today, you'd have 71% of Republicans who show up relative to 55% of Democrats. So there's a huge enthusiasm gap there as well, as it pertains to Democrats. And you might want to ask why, because there's an animated Democrat base, but it's a minority. You know,
they want a lot of the attention. Right?
They want more insanity. Yeah, they want more crazy. But the majority of people aren't there.
Do you think then that the Supreme Court looking at overturning the decision to have marriage is going to have any effect on Trump's approval ratings? I don't know. That's coming up too. And I'm wondering if that's going to have an effect. But guess what, George? You can't answer because we're going to break right now. I also wanted to ask, with a lot of Republicans that are already seated, not running for re-election and retiring or just getting out altogether, does that have any effect on the numbers? Okay, we're going to take a break right now, but we will be right back with more on Sidebar.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
Okay, we are in the last segment of Sidebar. Remember, you can always join us every Saturday from 9 to 10 right here on WOAI, but you can also get on social media. Right now, go to sidebartv.com if you are not already there. And the last segment of Sidebar, remember, you can always join us every Saturday from 9 to 10 right here on WOAI, but you can also get on social media. Right now, go to sidebartv.com if you are not already there and help spread the word. Share with your friends who really should be part of this conversation at sidebartv.com. So the U.S. Supreme Court has officially been asked to overturn the 2015 decision that granted equal marriage rights to LGBTQ plus couples. How did this all come about? Because how did it come about?
I mean, look, first we'll talk about cert conferences, and you have to have this, so you don't need a majority. Right. But we can talk about whether, I mean, you're going to get Thomas and Alito to probably say yes, but whether you can get two of the other conservative justices to vote yes to, that's another story. So you have this clerk in Kentucky that wouldn't issue marriage certificates because it violated her religious, principles or religious liberty. And then so two men sued her and were awarded $50,000 roughly, I think, each. I'm not sure. I didn't look at the judgment, but I'm just what I read. And she appealed the verdict to the Sixth Circuit. She claimed that she can't violate rights because her rights were violated, because it's like this violation of rights argument, religious liberty. And then so now they've appealed to the Supreme Court, and then we can discuss, like I said, at the end of this, on the tail end, whether we think the Supreme Court will grant cert after a cert conference or not. But I think this is, I don't think they will. I hope they don't, honestly. And even though I believe in biblical marriage, and I think I'm very open, I believe in God's prescription on things. But I think this is a slippery slope, at least under this legal argument. They're going to have to come up with a different legal argument. Because if you come up with a religious liberty argument or religious freedom argument why a public servant does not enforce the law, whether you like it or not, you better be very, very careful down that road we go. I mean, be very, very careful. I think that if she couldn't execute her duties after she claimed to uphold and defend the Constitution and the laws, she should have stepped down. We do it with jurors. We went during voir dire, we say, if there's any reason that you cannot judge somebody or stand in judgment based off your religious, beliefs, please raise your hand. And then what do? We don't tell them, okay, you can stay on and we'll adjust to you. We say, thank you, you're excused and you're gone. So I think that she should have stepped down. Again, this is my personal faith. I'm a Christian, but still, we have a process in place, and the process played out, and that was the law, and she swore to uphold it, and so that wasn't her job to do that. So I think she should have stepped down.
From what I remember, Nico, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kim Davis, who was at that time a clerk in, I think in was it Rowan County in Kentucky?
Kentucky.
And what she said is, look, this is this makes it my issue. I understand that matters of conscience, if I'm working on behalf of the state, don't apply in terms of the First Amendment. I don't think she denied that. I think the problem, or at least her lawyer didn't. I think the problem was that her name's on these certificates, and so as a she claims to be a devout Christian, and she had a problem with that. And so I think at that time the powers that be, including the legislature, took up. And I don't recall if they actually voted on it, but I think they did, to actually remove the clerk's names from their certificates.
Right. That was their workaround. They worked around it.
And then she, to my knowledge, I don't recall her standing in the way. And I think there was an administration change that wasn't exactly favorable to her views. And so I want to connect the dots on that because they're a little sketchy.
Well, that's factual, but yeah.
Yes. But she did end up serving time. I think it was 5 days.
She was held in somehow.
Because while that change didn't happen, she refused to issue marriage licenses. And so she did serve time. And there was something like, at the end of the day, some $360,000 in, I think it was, I don't know what the actual description was.
Who issued
to the tune of damages. I'm sorry?
Who issued the capias to get her into custody? I mean, who she served time based off?
Yeah, I mean, based on the fact that she wasn't following through on her duties.
Keep going. I didn't hear that part, but that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was something like 5 days in jail.
Okay.
And so I think this is what's helping to propel, because she actually did time for it. And the number was like $360,000 in terms of damages, emotional damage, emotional stress, whatever the moniker was. So 2 issues going on here. She's saying she thinks that there are legitimate First Amendment rights. I think Nico's right. I think there's some legitimate question about whether that applies here because she's doing work on behalf of the state. The other issue, there's 2 issues though, and I think the other issue may have legs. And I think...
What's the other issue?
What do I know? I think they might grant cert on this issue, at least on the notion that she's arguing that Obergefell should never have happened. It should never have happened because not unlike Roe, it sits on very, very weak legal footing. That the whole thing really is just sort of a red herring because of the substantive due process argument upon which it sits. And they're going to bring up the Dobbs decision in 2022, wherein Clarence Thomas, in his concurring opinion, raised that and said that was in question. And he didn't just raise that. He raised a number of cases that he thought were ultimately ruled in favor of and became the law of the land on very sort of suspicious legal reasoning. In other words, rights that are found by the court to be in the Constitution but are not explicitly stated in the Constitution as being there. And he says, I wonder if these are actually immunities or some other types of protections. And perhaps there's other legal arguments that would find these rights.
There's a privileges and immunities clause, right, that nobody uses and argues anymore because of the due process argument. Once the 14th Amendment was applied from federal law to state law, which is what 14th Amendment does, basically, just so you understand, Karen. So you have these federal rights. Well, they don't apply to the states. Well, yeah, they should apply to the states. So the 14th Amendment says, no, these federal rights apply to the states. So that's that due process, that fundamental fair play. That's a different argument, and the legal scholars can argue. There's a lot of scholars.
I think what you're saying is what Thomas is trying to go to.
There's legal scholars that disagree with Thomas strongly, right? So you have that debate on that. I'm saying that on the religious liberty argument, that needs to be abandoned. If they're going to make this argument, have at it. I'll get the popcorn and watch and let them make their arguments, and whatever they decide if they grant cert. I think I hope that she abandons the religious liberty argument, because then think about that. Then you put someone in power that is Islamic and they want to implement Sharia law. Be careful of the world you help create. Well, hold on. But she was insubordinate. She didn't listen to her husband. And if you don't think that's real, you better do some homework, because then you're going to lose an argument with me. And because I deal with this every day. I mean, so then I'm not going to apply assault family violence on Class A misdemeanors or third degree choking and restricting airway. Or he can marry that 9-year-old or that 8-year-old as long as you don't consummate till you're 9. Just be careful when you start arguing religious liberties, because you're happy when it's Christian religious liberties, but all I'm saying is be very careful.
I can't think of a serious legal scholar that I've read that doesn't agree with what you just said.
Good. That's all I'm saying.
And really on both sides. But I think there is an open question of what's a reasonable accommodation, because you don't check out. You don't stop being an American citizen with religious convictions in any capacity.
Well, how do you distinguish between the religious liberty? She's saying, I don't believe in marriage. An Islamic person says, I believe you can marry an 8-year-old. So now what?
Well, in this case,
more important?
All she said is, I didn't want my name on the certificate.
I got it. But
okay,
then resign. That's all. That's my point. I mean, this is what you get when you get into the public square. I mean, you do an assessment, understand what you're walking into the arena, and this is it. This is not your office. You're serving at the behest of the citizens. And so this is a problem with public servants. They're selfish.
She pushed the issue and did get a concession, from what I recall. So are you saying that she shouldn't even push the issue?
Not on that issue.
Okay.
And you're not going to. I mean, I love my Savior, and I believe in biblical marriage, and I'm all in, and I'll make that argument logically and then biblically, but not in that role. You're a public servant. You signed up to defend the Constitution, and this went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled down. You don't get to. That's not your role in that position.
So what would happen?
You can issue it under protest. Issue it under protest. I issue it under protest. Okay, you made your point.
So what happens if the Supreme Court were to overturn this decision? Is this something that can go to the states?
Well, that is a really big leap right now, although it looks more probable than ever. I don't know how to say that in a more responsible way, but I think Nico's pretty unassailable argument. Yeah. But the second argument, I think, has legs, because there's this concern that the court is inventing rights and assigning these rights as if they're sort of explicitly there, and they're not. And that is going to be the criticism here. Remember that in the Obergefell ruling in 2015, that Roberts was on the court and he dissented, and Alito was on the court and dissented, and Thomas was on the court and dissented. They're still there. And the only one who isn't is Scalia. And that ruling was a 5-4 ruling. It wasn't like it was 6-3.
Yeah.
So wow. And the argument continues to linger. And it's interesting that Thomas said, look, it's not just that, but it's others. And you get into other rulings about contraception and so forth. I mean, it gets really interesting. That, look, maybe, I like what you said. It's a good point of clarification. Maybe you're still going to end up where you are, but for different legal reasons. You can't make stuff up, because how you get there matters.
Which is due process, by the way.
In the court, and it matters in law enforcement.
And what happens to the couples that are already married, the same-sex couples?
It would be grandfathered.
But no one else after that point.
Oh, that's right. But it would go to the states, and so now you get into patchwork of rules.
That's crazy. That's so much.
It gets interesting.
But then going back to your midterm, if this becomes an issue, don't think it won't be used. I mean, when you think about strategy and politics and timing.
Trump has gone back and forth on his support. At one point, he's like, I don't care, whatever.
Well, Trump wasn't some bastion of defending of biblical marriage, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, but so that's not. I don't know. That's not his issue.
I'd love to reserve another show where you and I can kind of evaluate this from the perspective of culture, because going into Obergefell, what took it over the top is framing this argument of homosexual marriage or same-sex marriage as a civil rights issue.
Yeah.
Until they made it a civil rights issue, for which there's still significant consternation in the country. Until they made it a civil rights issue, it was flat. It was dead on arrival.
Well, Biden didn't support it. Hillary Clinton didn't support it. This is what I always tell people.
Yeah.
And we got the video to prove it.
What an excellent point. And so that was kryptonite. Do you want to be a politician against the civil right? Oh, no way. Yeah. But wait a minute. 10 seconds ago, you're against it because it wasn't couched that way. And so I think this is where this is ultimately going. We need to have that discussion because you could push anything that you want under civil rights. You have Black Americans who took great offense to everything in the kitchen sink being thrown in there. Now you have sexual preferences.
Yeah.
Now you redefine marriage. And I remember we came out of that ruling, you and I were chatting after that and saying, well, what isn't possible now?
Well, what about minor attraction to minor persons or whatever they call it now? It's called pedophilia, where I come from. But I mean, so all I'm saying is we have to think this out and what logic and what laws and what principles are we applying? Look, America used to think a certain way. We've gotten so far away from a biblical worldview and understanding. And so you just have to acknowledge where you're at and work to persuade the citizens. You got to go back to the basics. I mean, this didn't happen overnight. The church slept. People just drifted, and we talk about that. We're studying that in the Bible study, Hebrews, and the writer of Hebrews is telling you don't drift. And it's just like, Ephesians 4:20 said, don't give a foothold. And so that ship was sailed a long time ago. And so you're not going to overcorrect if that's where people want to go. I don't know. Again, let them speak. I believe in persuasion and persuading people to do a certain thing. That's the biblical way of doing things. You can either govern by force or persuasion. And the founders chose persuasion, and that's why we have heated and passionate but respectful debates. Look, guys, we're going to wrap up. We're going to continue to talk about this and other topics and try to answer some of your questions. Join us on the after show. Thank you for joining in. Hope your kids are doing well in school. I think the other half of school will start this week. And so pray for our children and our teachers. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
The preceding show was paid for by the LaHood Norton Law.
We never discussed what we were going to talk about, but I wanted to ask one thing since I wasn't here last week. You had your brother in, Mark LaHood, and I was not part of the after show, so I don't even know if you even talked about it, but are those Texas Democrats still gone?
Yeah.
And what's going to happen?
Well, as of last week, I don't know, but as of last week, Mark said that they were only 3 shy of a quorum, but I guess they didn't get it this week. It's interesting. I thought that they said
Why hasn't the governor done anything about this?
Well, they did. They issued they issued a warrant.
Yes.
And so they can do that.
So as soon as they step foot back into the state,
Yeah.
But where are they?
Kind of like
And
a writ of
Abbott issued
attachment.
another session.
It's like a writ of attachment. So if you ignore a subpoena to testify in
Right.
court, the judge can issue what we call a writ of attachment. So they could go and attach the body, bring him to court, and then in between, if you think you're not going to show up the next day, they'll keep you in custody so you can testify the next day. Now, they can't tell you what to say. You're going to testify the way you're going to testify, but you're not going to ignore a legitimate court order, and so they attach you. So that's essentially what they issued, a writ of attachment for them. But the governor has said this is a pissing contest now. So the governor has said I'm gonna have another special session and another special session and another special session. So
And FYI, it's inevitable.
I know.
Yes,
That's what I don't get. This is like
the 5 additional seats are going to happen.
I mean, and I know that it's their jobs to be there in Austin, but
can I be the ignorant interviewer? So you educate me on this, George. I mean, we talked about a little bit of the history last week, and that Representative Jerry, and then it looked like a salamander, and so that's why.
Yes, I love that.
Elbridge Jerry.
Yeah. So I mean, and wasn't he vice president at one point too? I don't know. He served in a different ways.
He did.
This is back in 1812. So this is before both parties were even developed. You know, in the 1820s and 1840s, Republican, Democrats, respectively, kind of established their parties. So this goes back. Now, my question is, because I'm ignorant on this, so that's why I'm going to be the ignorant interviewer. I mean, what's wrong with just having people vote? Why did this start in the first place in 1812? I mean, what was the whole issue? I mean, because if you have a group of people, and then you have more conservatives here or more left-leaning people here, then the people will speak in general. I mean, what is? I mean, I'm trying to understand.
But there's two parts. People vote, and then that vote has to transfer to representation.
I agree with that.
And so this it's really redistricting or districting. They call it gerrymandering because it was a takeoff on his name, Elbridge Jerry. And answer your question, yes, on the VP stuff, he was vice president, and so they just felt like rather than doing sort of straightforward allocation of boundaries, that this it looked like that he was basically sort of bending around preferred demographics to get an outcome. And there's nothing wrong with that. And as long as and here's the issue, as long as it reflects with some proportionality the wishes of the voters. And this is the beef in California, and you mentioned this last week.
Yeah.
In California, it's something like 84% Democrat, while the votes are about 30% less than that for Democrats.
Yeah,
so you've got a gap of about 30 points.
In California and in Illinois,
It's
by
about
the way.
83.5% in California.
So you got 40+% Republican vote.
So
but they
what
have
kind of
only,
representation
But they
is
only
that?
have 17% representation.
Right.
So the Democrats have mastered this.
Yeah.
This is my point. But my point is that the way the system was set
Okay,
up?
that's another way to look at it. You
right?
said there's yes, that's right. There's 40% of Republicans and only 17
17%.
representation.
Yeah.
But in terms of the number of delegates, the number of congressmen, it's 84% Democrats, and you look at that relative to how many people voted for Democrats, and it's a delta of 30 points. You see the same thing in Illinois with J.B. Pritzker.
Yeah.
Almost the exact same, by the way, same spread of 30 points. And so people are saying, okay, go ahead and we need a district to come up with a number of seats to represent, but make sure it reflects voting patterns.
But if you didn't have gerrymandering, wouldn't those 40 and correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't figured out the math. Wouldn't those 40% Republicans be heard? Or they would not, because are they concentrated in a certain area?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
And you have areas that are concentrated.
That's the issue.
And so exactly. And so and this has been the practice forever. And so the Democrats have been geniuses at serpentining these district or these boundaries so that it suits them. So that you basically have Democrat voters, sort of pushing things over the limit. And then you, obviously, if they're voting Democrat, you end up with more Democrat congressional seats. It's not hard, and so it's been part of our fabric forever.
And please excuse my ignorance. How does it not take care of itself? Look at the Valley. So Starr County and all there in the Valley voted Democrat for years and decades, and then they went red on this last election. So then there are going to be more Republican electorate, public servants.
Correct.
And that just took care of itself.
And that's what the Republicans are saying.
And so there's, and I think it's disingenuous, Karen, when the Democrats say, well, the Republicans didn't vote to ban gerrymandering back. Yeah, but during that bill or whatever that proposal, there was a bunch of other bullshit in there also. Yeah. It's never just about, but they, again, the Republicans continue to lose the PR war, because with that gerrymandering bill, there was also things about, same-day registration for voting and mail-in ballot voting and expanded on mail-in ballots. I mean, so there was a bunch of other collateral damage in that bill. It wasn't just about the gerrymandering, and so they disagreed more with the other stuff than the actual redistricting issue on that bill.
What is a crime is that the Republicans are late to using these techniques to actually draw their lines. Ken online says Massachusetts has 0 Republican districts.
0.
I mean,
but they have Republican voters in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a piece, and I wish everybody would read it, but there's a piece by Kurt Schlichter on gerrymandering, and his position is there should be more of it, and because you should constantly be evaluating that you're represented in alignment with the move of the voters in your state, and whether you're going to get exact proportionality, I think that's more of a challenge, because it becomes a math game. But as long as, in fact, the thrust of the vote of the state, the voter sentiment of the state reflects how you're districted, fantastic. All the better. And the reality is that Democrats have been at this much more effectively than Republicans. And they're not upset that we're gerrymandering. They're just upset that we're finally gerrymandering now more than they are at this present moment. But look what Newsom said. Newsom's so upset, because we got to save our democracy. We got to save our democracy from the likes of people like Greg Abbott in Texas, who's pushing for this redistricting. And so what does Newsom say? How is he going to respond to this horrible injustice? Well, he wants to gerrymander more. That's what he said.
I know what he said. But I mean, this whole save him from democracy, the hyperbole, and I get both sides do it. but what about the open borders? Did you save us from democracy when you didn't support parents to speak at school board meetings? Did you save us from democracy when someone can't stand outside an abortion clinic and just pray or try to influence somebody out, not block the door to violate that statute up across the? Did you save us from democracy on any other issue that we've talked about, when people are being canceled because you can't share your opinion? Did you save us from democracy? Phil, I don't understand how. Look, they're good at it. The Democrats are the champions for democracy. We're not a democracy, by the way. We're a constitution republic. But aside from all that,
but they rely on the ignorance of the voter, and it works beautifully.
Yeah, it does.
Every single time.
Yep. It's effective.
And it's everything. Whenever they don't like something, we've got to save our democracy. But Trump, it's always because it's Trump, and Trump's a dictator.
And Trump is Hitler.
And then the literally Hitler, the thing where now it's the point where nothing's Hitler. And that's another problem, because when you have legitimate problems, now nobody believes them. It's the crying wolf problem. And we were just talking about the D.C. issue. It is an objective fact that Washington's murder rate is higher than, like we said, higher than any capital city in the developed world. But Trump. We got to save our democracy from Trump. No, I'm sorry. Engage with the issue. They won't engage with the issue.
But you wanted to make a comment about Alamo Talk. First of all, Alamo Talk defended us on Wednesday at R-Rated Christianity.
What?
Yes. Well, he's a good dude, man. I like Alamo Talk.
It.
I know he mixes it up with a lot of people online with us, but I
don't know if he's Democrat or Republican, but he does know how to stir. But he does know how to stir the group up into responding.
I think he's related to Saulo, because Saulo knows how to stir people. Alamo Talk is related to Saulo, but he defended us with our guest on R-Rated Christianity, which turned into a shit show. Said we were woke, and he goes, "I know these dudes; they're anything but woke." So thank you, Alamo Talk, for defending us on R-Rated Christianity, brother. And thanks for watching. But you wanted to address something. I guess he was going. Karen said he was going back and forth with some people online.
Yeah, Alamo Talk was making the point that Obama deported so many people. I just want to stop it, and he continued. And I always make it a practice to shoot down faulty premises. That's just simply false.
I'd like to direct you, Alamo Talk, can I call you AT? To a piece in the LA Times. And since you enjoy defending Democrats as much as they do, you will be in great company. LA Times wrote a piece in April 1st of 2014 by Brian Bennett. And the title of the piece is High Deportation Figures Are Misleading. In 2014, who was president? Yes, that would be Barack Hussein Obama. And they write a very thoughtful, instructive piece on why his numbers were misleading, and it's thought out. I think you should read it. The premise is false, and it's simply this: that's very different. The expulsion numbers at the border are very different than the interior. Correct.
Yeah.
And so that's how they're counting it. The turnaround rate, basically. And you can't compare apples and oranges, as most people know. So that's part of the problem. The analysis is skewed because we're comparing apples with oranges here. And if you actually look at deportations and arresting people in the interior and then confining them to facilities along the border and then deporting them, plus the expulsions at the border, there's just no comparison between Obama and Trump. Trump wins every time. So check out that piece, and your quarrel is with them, not with us.
So there.
It is kind of an advantage to Texas or other border cities that the self-deporting that happened was it over 1 million. It was easy for them to leave our state because they're right there if they're from Mexico. But on some of the interior states, I mean, how did they self-deport? Yeah. They're still there.
Well,
they're hiding.
Are you talking about the 1.7 million that have self-deported? That's amazing. So does Trump get credit for that?
No.
I mean, because he's. No. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Look, I get why Joe Rogan. Because look, Joe Rogan is very empathetic. A lot of people. I think most of us are, which I love that. Even my wife. I mean, it's like, Chulo, what's going on here? I mean, and this. You know, because she watches Univision. My wife's from Mexico, and she speaks. You know, that's her Spanish is her first language, and so all it's disturbing because you see these families, they're broken apart and they've been here for years, and they're not the criminals that Trump said that he was going to start with and all that stuff, and I get all that, but what's the answer then?
They're still breaking the law.
But they're still here illegally. So what's the answer? And the problem is here, who do you blame for this? Do you blame the person that's trying to correct the abuse, or do you blame the person who abused it, which is Biden and the Democrats? I mean, so it's like this. So somebody mistreats the boat, and the boat has this influx of water coming in, and everyone's going to drown. So in the process of scooping out all the water, they've already plugged up the hole, so the water's not coming in, but it's still the boat's in trouble. So you're scooping up all this water, and then I scooped up your purse, and then I scooped up your this, and oh shit, I took your cat, and all this other one. I mean, you're scooping up a lot of stuff because you're just trying to get all this water out so quickly because it was abused by somebody else. Maybe it's a crappy analogy. I'm just saying.
No, I get it.
I mean,
That's
you understand
good.
my point,
yes,
right?
yes.
I mean, Salo's getting nervous when I start talking about ice and water and scooping and swimming. But so and his cat, especially his cat. I mean, but so all of that stuff.
Oh my God.
That's all I'm saying. I mean, so what is the answer? We can't sustain this way. Our system can't handle it. The resources of our government can't handle it. You want to talk about money spent and poorly spent? I mean, we can talk about Social Security another time. I mean, the Social Security system is a crazy system. So we have all these entitlements and this, and I bring that up because of the entitlements. And illegals are getting benefits from Americans who should have gotten that, from school benefits to health care to Medicare, everything that's happening in the abuse of the system. So what's the answer? I mean, there's no nice way to fix an abuse. There's just a way to fix it. Now, you can do it honorably, and I don't know what's dishonorable about getting people here illegally out. They deserve due process. You know me, I'm a due process hawk, and do it the right way. And if there's a legitimate reason to stay now, or do you come up with a system that if you've been here, got it, check. Things happened in the past, we can't fix it. If you've been here for 15 years and you don't have a felony arrest and you don't do this and you've been paying this and we can do this, I'm open to something like that, by the way. I am. Because I don't know if you're going to get it the other way around and you know, not have too much of a disruption. I don't know. But I'm open-minded to doing what's right for this country. Because I think we should start thinking about the health and longevity of this country.
Yeah, I think this is such a heated topic. It's almost impossible to have a reasonable discussion about this. And since people know now, I mean, they're not even hiding it anymore. The Democrats were basically launched an initiative of complete illegality to build a voter base.
Voter base, yeah.
It's absolutely true. And this is why Trump's call to do a census that doesn't have illegal aliens has traction. It does. I mean, it's not without challenges, no question about it. But it has a lot of traction and has a lot of basis. I mean, think about that. Why is it okay? And where are they concentrated? In blue cities, blue states. This is a problem. Yeah. We have representation in Congress, buoyed and supported by illegal aliens on our census rosters. That's unjust. That's wrong. And people know that at a visceral level. No other country would be okay with that. But somehow it's okay in the United States of America. Because that's how we pay for our sins of being a white imperialistic nation. See, this is the bullshit. This is the bullshit that replaces clear thinking in the Democrat Party. And this has been largely an emotional argument because at the core of it is, let's be empathetic. Let's have compassion for these people. In the meantime, now, I think because there's been so much damage and Americans have been so hurt, I'm just talking about the violent crime in communities, but I'm talking about sapping communities of the resources that should be going to American citizens. And they're not. It's an injustice. I mean, when FAIR.US, I think it's Federation for American Immigration Reform, says that it's over $150 billion a year. That's a conservative number because they're operating on the old number of 11 million. The number that never changes was 11 million. Yeah. And you got Pew Research who's still saying 11 million. How can that be? Really, we had 14 million just under Biden, and it was 11 million 10 years before that. That's why Trump's in the 20s and 30s. Yeah. I think it's higher than that. So it's 150 billion at about 11 million. So it's basic relativity, basic relative math. And so if it's more than that, that is a crazy amount of money. And that should be going for American interests. That's right. America first. I don't understand why that's a problem. You've brought up the analogy of someone's home. My family first in my home. Yep. We used to consider that a noble thing. But somehow at a national level, it's racist. This kind of nonsense has got to stop. And Americans finally are fed up with it.
Well, you got to educate people about it and reason with people. I mean, because you're dealing with people that are, I think, overall are empathetic and want to help people. And it just sucks when you see families broken up. And then you look at the situation. And look, and I deal with this a lot, and I get it. I mean, it pulls at me, too. I know people that have been here for 10, 15, 20 years.
And why didn't they get their citizenship?
Because they got here illegally. And now they're established, and they're afraid to go back, and they're afraid to out themselves because they're working in the system, and they're working honorably. Look, I mean, I've had multiple families hire us over the year for their children that were born here, and they just cut a check. I mean, they've worked hard. They're good people. They're biblically minded people. They're working hard. They have good, honest businesses. They're not, they're not even picking up misdemeanors. I mean, there's a distinction between a misdemeanor offense and then, which is typically a DWI versus, armed robbery, aggravated assault, sexual assault, things of this nature, murder. I mean, so I deal with a bunch of that, and I get it. And I know you don't do this, George, but there's a lot of construction people that have good, hardworking people, and they're dependable, or landscaping, or whatever it is, or any type of manufacturing job. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if are we still on the path of trying to pluck and find every one of those 20 or 30 million illegals, no matter what? Is there an adverse possession argument? In the sense of, when someone takes over.
And when you say no matter what, and I'm not in that camp either. I mean, you can't just do whatever.
I know.
You can't be breaking laws to say that breaking laws is a good idea.
No matter what is, we don't take anything into consideration. We don't look at anything. So what adverse possession is this? If you overtly and openly take over and possess someone's property and treat it as your own, and don't abuse it, and don't do this, and don't do anything illegal on it, at some point, after a period of time, you have been overt about it, you've taken possession of it, and then you haven't been secretive about it, then it becomes your property. Or there's an argument for that. I'm not saying that's a one-for-one argument. I'm just saying if someone's here, and is there a formula we can put together that applies to someone that's 10, 15 years plus with no felony charges, with no moral turpitude charges?
I know, but I still don't understand why they didn't take care of that.
Who's
take care of what?
The people that have been living here for 10, 15, 20 years and never became a citizen. Why? I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't do immigration law. I just know that immigration law changes so much. I think it's a fear of outing themselves, I think, from what I've seen.
But before now, it would have been a lot easier.
Well, yeah. I mean, but they're afraid of outing themselves and then losing all the stuff they've worked up for. Because because then there's many people that have children and grandchildren here now that are doing wonderful, and then that's
and
just
that
going to
would be
disrupt
even
it.
more reason, I would think, to
And many
become
of them,
a
and I'm
citizen.
sorry, it's true. Many of them are sort of flying low on the radar, and they're not paying into the system.
Now, yes.
Yeah.
Even more so.
Right, and so you've got this is another big issue.
Well, Republicans have had different positions on this over the years, right, George? Right.
I mean, if you want to hear the pinnacle of that example, go back to the Marco Rubio Gang of Eight season, right, where he was. This is when they were still
Wasn't he
talking.
arguing amnesty or what?
He caught a lot of flack for it, and when he was running against Trump in 2016, this kept coming up. Gang of Eight, and remember, it almost becomes a joke now when you talk in terms of comprehensive immigration reform. Remember that, which is code for amnesty.
Yeah.
Now, should it? I hate that because I like that comprehensive immigration reform.
Yeah. What would that look like to you?
Well, I mean, I think what's happening now.
If you were in charge, what would you do? Go.
I don't think anybody should be here illegally. I think Trump's priorities are the right ones, where you focus on the people that are presenting imminent danger to American citizens. So violent thugs who are here illegally, a serious and concerted law enforcement action to round them up and get them the hell out of here. So I think that's happening.
Sure.
Obviously, stopping the bleeding, that should be a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
Funding, which yes, the big beautiful bill has done. There's been significant funding to actually finish that wall. That'll be a huge deterrent in places where there aren't points of official ports of entry. And then there's everybody else. And I do love the E-Verify. I do think that's a great thing that everybody talked about, but never actually got fully implemented nationally. That needs to be a requirement, it seems to me. So you brought up my example. Let's start with major corporations that have elaborate and serious and controlled human resource processes. No, you need to be an American citizen. And so you will not be employed if you're not an American citizen. That's right. Now, obviously, there's legal workarounds. Those are fine. There's actual visas that can be obtained. There's green cards. Fair enough. But those are controlled systems. But the mass illegal immigration right now, where illegal aliens are coming in and getting low-wage labor that should be going to Americans, that's completely unacceptable. That's to the tune of millions right now. So I think those individuals... Those individuals should be held accountable for breaking the law,
and
I think it should be
more
humanitarian.
Americans have those jobs. They kept saying Americans won't take those jobs, and the data is not
fallacious.
supporting that.
Absolutely,
the data is not supporting that.
So there should be a concerted effort. I hate the word round up, but to identify those individuals, and to bring them in to those investigators. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, the ones you trust.
Who the fuck are those investigators?
I don't know who these people are, man.
No, but I mean, there ought to be. This is the law right now. It just hasn't been followed. That's actually the law right now. And so I'm reading, and I haven't been able to corroborate it. Salo, maybe you know, since they're looking for you. But I'm curious. It's my understanding that there's a surge of interest in ICE positions right now.
Oh, I know there is.
100,000, right?
Yep.
100,000 applications.
And they don't
the
even
number
care about the bonuses.
drive me crazy, and the number's all over the place.
Yeah, they don't care about the bonuses. They said, yes, and they said they don't care. They want to just get on now.
And I didn't know.
Signing bonus,
I didn't know that illegals. Did you know? I didn't know that illegals could actually apply to work in ICE until you applied. No, just kidding.
Stop.
Salo figured if I work there,
they can't get me.
Whatever even happened to the original due process guy? You know, the
What
El
do you mean? He's
Salvadoran.
No. You talking about the what's his name, Garcia?
The Missouri man, or what was it? Yeah, Abreu. Yeah.
Who are we talking about?
What happened to him?
The one we got in our...
Abrego Garcia.
The
Abrego
original
Garcia.
guy, yeah.
Right, the family man.
The El Salvadoran that they brought back to send
Oh no,
back
he's on his way. He's on his way out of the United States.
to the Congo.
Yeah.
He got
Where?
He got to do
No,
process.
Back to El
Salvador, right?
I don't know what country he's, but it's they left the door open to a third party country. He might be wishing he was where he was before.
El Salvador, right?
But it makes me like, notice how you went. I know you didn't do this on purpose, but we started talking about it, and you're like, but look, I recognize there's people here that are trying to do the right thing, and you get into this conversation, you almost feel the need. I'm the same way. I almost feel the need to say the same thing as a disclaimer. And Americans, I think, got to a point where they said, well, who's thinking about me now? Who's going to equivocate on me? Who's going to say, what about those American families?
But I think Americans are making a distinction that I think that's what the Joe Rogans are talking about, and a lot of people are concerned about. I mean, me, I'm as a strategist. You know me. I'm a trial lawyer. I'm a strategist. I want the verdict. I want the win. I define what a win is. You know, meaning that we can implement ideas that I think bless even people that disagree with these ideas. I think that a conservative, biblical-minded set of ideas will bless even Mark Antoine, who listens and you know obviously disagrees with our ideology, and Alamo Talk and other people that disagree with us. I think it overall blesses people whether they support it or not, and that's my advocacy. That's my point. And so I'm thinking of that big picture. So Americans aren't on board with this obviously right now because they're making that distinction. They absolutely want Trump to stop the border influx. Check. And he gets great, you know, support on that.
And I'm sorry
And
if I didn't
violent
communicate that. It started out real strong. Then there was a trough under terrible media attention and reporting, and then it's crept up again.
It's creeping up again.
It's crept up again because of the reports that in fact this notion that Americans wouldn't do these jobs anyway, and that these illegal aliens are here because we have no choice.
Right.
That kind of thing. That argument has been effectively disbanded, number one. And number two, I think people realize that at the end of the day, because here's the thing, the unemployment numbers has forced this discussion, because what you have now is less employed illegals. And those are affecting the numbers. And people are like, wait, we thought that was bad news. No, that's actually good news. And so this is a remaking. This is important because you and I have beat this drum. This is a remaking of American priorities, cultural priorities around assimilation, not immigration, assimilation. That's the key. And that's what Trump's saying. Trump has no issue with people coming in legally. I don't either. Although I have to say, because of the abuses, I was at a point where I was like, stop the whole damn thing. Not legal, not illegal. Let's stop the bleeding. Let's fix the tens and tens of millions of people who are here illegally, and then let's get back to assimilation. What does assimilation look like? Look, I came from another country. My parents came from another country. I was naturalized as a minor. My sister, who's in the studio here today, and Sandra, I had to say that you're my sister. I know you don't want to admit it. No, just, but she, we were naturalized as minors along with our parents in 1986. I was just about to turn 18, and I've said to you many, many times, it was a rigorous and long, but not just long. It was rigorous process, and legitimate questions like, why do you want to be an American?
Yeah.
Do you know what it means to be an American? Have you heard of this thing called the Constitution? 3 branches of government. Why is that a good idea? Can you believe that? Talking to somebody coming across the border from Venezuela and say, why is 3 branches a good idea? They're like, what are you talking about, dude? Biden said I could be here. I don't give a shit. We need to get back to assimilation. Yeah. So how do we do that? I'm asking people.
And I wish we could do polls, Saulo. We could poll our watchers and viewers. I mean, what do people make? Because I'm honestly curious. Do people make a distinction between 10, 15, 20-year people that have been here without felonies on their record, and that are in all practical purposes are adding to society? Or do you make it? I'm not saying you just say it's a pass, you're in. Do something, but without having to extract them from their situation. I'm as a strategist, I'm wondering.
But if you have been here for 20 years and you're working, I mean, you're paying taxes?
You're paying into the system somewhat.
So how, I don't understand that. I still don't understand that.
You can be here as a non-citizen and be here legally and working.
Yes.
That's a different issue. That's a very different issue.
That's
Yeah,
not
what's
what I'm
happened?
talking about.
We also have a significant. Well, this is what Marco Rubio was concerned about. We have thousands of people that are visa overstays.
Yes, yeah.
And then they just fly low on the radar for the next 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
But why are they so surprised when they're caught and put in handcuffs to say, let's go?
The justification is, I'm not the person you're worried about. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just giving you the argument. I'm trying to present it. I'm really open to this. I think this is where a lot of Americans, I'm not saying our viewership, I mean, but I'm just saying a lot of Americans are stuck in this. It's because they're making this distinction between this, Tren de Aragua and all those dumb dicks versus people that are here just really, trying to work and feed their families and are good people overall. I'm just saying. I mean, George, I'm asking you. Let me question you. Because I'm not saying I have a position. I'm just open to this. I'm listening. What would you say? How would you adjust the system to that family 10, 15, 20 years that have been here, no felonies on their record? Would you have a way of them being held accountable, paying a fine, doing something, registering, doing whatever they need to do, go to a class, do whatever you think? Would there be a process to that? Or do you say, sorry, brother, get out, and now because they've overstayed, they're never coming back?
Yeah. So two things. Trump has made some comments about that I agree with, and he had. I mean, I think the number is kind of high. I mean, at one point he was like $5 million for marriage.
Yeah, well, that's the rich people coming in.
Yeah.
So, I obviously hyperbole, or maybe it's not obvious.
No,
It's Trump.
that was a gold card. That was
Okay, that was gold
legit.
card. Yeah.
That was for business people to
Yeah.
pay and to come invest and employ people
Yeah.
here. No,
But
that was legit.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. It's obviously hyperbole to extrapolate to the average person who's been here illegally, or at least illegally for a long time. But the point is, there ought to be some sort of monetary
So
payment that
you're
make
okay
into the
with it,
system.
with a system that we set up a process that if there's an individual that, and whether it's 10 years, 15, 10 years is a long time. I mean, after every 10 years, you used to start over with your DWIs, and they wouldn't be used to enhance it. That law's changed. I'm just saying. So 10 years is a significant change in someone's life. So are you saying whatever it is, whether it's 10 or 15 years, that someone's been here with no felonies, no violent crimes, no crime against moral turpitude or sexual offenses, you're saying that if they surrender or they're caught, that there should be some type of monetary fee, maybe classes, something that doesn't uproot them from their family if they're that person. Is that what you're saying?
To become legal.
Yes.
To become legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have an issue with that.
Okay, see, that's
That is the first time I've heard you say that.
Yeah, that is the first time I've heard you say that. I
have
think
an
that's reasonable. I mean, yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, but I sympathize. What you heard me say the first
No,
time
I
is
get it,
I
brother.
sympathize very much, and I don't know that I.
Just had to
Well-
ask himself.
well, I think
for
this
your
is-
sake. For your sake, I ask.
Well, I think this is reasonable. I don't know that it would be a hill that I would die on.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
get it.
different.
I get it.
I'm sympathize with the American that says, look, with all respect, I appreciate that, but you're here illegally. You blew off the country's laws, and and it's true. This is we got, what is it, 100 million people waiting, who are trying to do this the right way. And so, what about them? And so, go to the back of the line.
Yeah.
I sympathize with that.
Yeah.
I do.
It's not easy. This is why it's a stalemate. I
Yeah.
wanted to do this exercise just to play it out.
Yeah.
And just to say, because I can't stand all the political bantering. We need to immigrate. We need criminal justice reform. What does that mean, asshole? I mean, we need criminal immigration reform. Well, give me some solutions. Quit criticizing. Let's come to some solution. And the only way is if we shelf our political agendas and really think about people and the nucleus of this country and all of us here, the Americans, and the United States of America in general, and what's best for the country, and figure this out and reason with each other. Sit down, as Isaiah 1 says, and reason with each other. And so that's because it's not a one size fits all. That's the thing the justice system doesn't address one size fits all. There's a range. You can get charged with a first-degree felony, and you know what the range of punishment is for that, Karen? For a first-degree felony, 5 years to 99 years or life is your range, or up to 10 years of community supervision, or up to a $10,000 fine or combination.
Wow.
That's a huge range.
Yes, yes.
But you have all these people charged with first-degree felonies. Well, a murder's a first-degree felony, and so are certain drug and theft charges. Are they all going to be treated? Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's how my mind works. Yes, you're here illegally. Check. You violated a law. Check. But what do we do about it? And in prioritizing criminals and disruptors and all that stuff and people that are threatening our citizens, get them the hell out of here. Give them their due process and get them the hell out of here. But the other folks, the ones that George and I just talked about, the 10 and 15-year people, which I just, I happen to run across a lot of them in what I do for a living. And are they adding to this country and all this stuff? And then we have to look, and we can put together something. I don't know if this is the answer. I'm not saying this is my official position. I'm just very much leaning towards, I'm open to this. There's got to be a way. Because we're going to go back and forth, and then Democrats are going to get in charge, and they're going to muck it up for a while, and then Republicans are going to come back in charge, and they're going to try to wade through it because they don't want to piss off certain people, and it's not a consensus over here. And let's cut the bullshit. Let's really try to do immigration reform.
I would like to
and establish the system.
But on that note, I would like, because I don't know the answer to this question, and I don't know, and I don't know a data source for it. I would like to know how many would fall into that bucket.
I don't know.
Is it
Yeah,
a
that's a
million?
great
Is it
question.
2 million?
Yeah.
Is it 4 million?
That's a
3
great
million? I'm just genuinely curious about that. There's a piece, and I think everybody should read it because it's beautifully written, and it's profound. It's called "The Devaluing of American Citizenship" by David Cipher, and it's into Spectator.com. Please avail yourself of it. It's phenomenal. He says, when the founders wrote the Constitution, they imagined a nation governed by its people, not by everyone who happened to be physically present. The 14th Amendment requires counting, quote, the whole number of persons, but that was written in a time before mass illegal immigration, anchor cities, and weaponized border policy. Including illegal immigrants in the census inflates power for liberal strongholds, allowing states that ignore federal immigration laws to gain disproportionate influence in the House of Representatives and the Electoral College. This isn't just unfair, it's unsustainable. In effect, it rewards non-compliance and punishes sovereignty. And then he talks about assimilation and national integrity. We got to get back to that, or there is no nation. And so now at this point where Trump has the microphone and Republicans have the majority, how do we drive that point home? This is a sacred issue here. And so I sympathize very much with the argument that says, yeah, I get it. Whether you're here a year or 15 years illegally. In fact, you might argue, I heard one person argue, I thought, think about that. So you didn't break the law for 1 year, you broke it for 15. So let's reward you for that. And I thought, okay, fair enough, I get it. I understand. They're not saying you can't come in. Go to the back of the line. What about the individual that, because this is true. There are people who've been waiting for 15 years to get in here.
Yeah.
And so there are moral issues, there are cultural issues at play, but ultimately you got to get back to being a nation of laws.
Part of the process is to see this waiting 15 years.
Yeah.
This is the problem. Why should you wait 15 years? You go through a process, you give them status, someone can sponsor them. That's part of the process too. Waiting 15 years. I don't have 15 years.
I have the answer to that question, brother.
Go ahead.
We're talking millions and millions and millions of people. We cannot
but
take the whole world into here. So we say no a lot.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
We need to say no a lot, and I think that's appropriate because we're trying. And this is why I love the piece so much. He elevates what he says is the sacred nature of the citizenship.
What's the amount? How many citizens do we want? Because when Social Security started in 1934, 37, whatever it was, I think it was 34. There was 150 million people in this country, roughly, and it was based off that. The life expectancy was 61. They didn't start paying until 64. So the original. I mean, this is another fascinating discussion on Social Security. They really didn't start Social Security. The intent was to pay 4 years after the national average.
Yeah, that's
people were
crazy.
living at 61 as a whole back then. So that's a different discussion. But there was 150 million people. There's 340 million people that we know of in this country. Yeah. So what's the amount? Like, what's the safe amount? Because at some point, to your point, I mean, you rent out a place at the beach, it sleeps 16, fairly comfortable. Okay, you fitting 30 in there, you just can't do it. No one's, there's not enough shitters in the house, and you can't move around. So what do you do? What is that number for America? Like, do you believe that we should get to a point where, like, okay, 500 million, we're stopping, so let's be selective on who we let in?
No, I think we should go.
Birth rates and death rates and all that other stuff.
I may have mentioned in here before, I don't know if I have, but we had decades where we had absolutely no immigration whatsoever because there was a significant, and this makes sense, we had significant immigration from about 1870, the late 1800s, to about 1920, and then we just said, you know what, I think we're going to stop here. Why? You got to assimilate what's here.
Sure.
We are Americans. There is a code of honor. There's a code of conduct. There are principles, policies that drive America. There's being a citizen means certain things. Our documents drive certain ideals. What are they? Do you embrace them?
Yeah, but brother, you're making an argument. You just impugned all of our kids for the last 2 decades. I mean, shit.
No, I think that's right.
Nobody learns that today. I mean,
that's excellent. And I think that was a concern, Nico, is that, hey, people are coming in and we're not taking inventory of what it means to be in America, not just be present in America. And so I think we should go back to that. I think that's a morally righteous and constitutionally sound and nationally sensible thing to do. Is we have tens of millions of people here, and the people that do ultimately stay here that are not legal, then there should be an assimilation drive. How do we assimilate them? How do we make them become citizens? Because if they don't want to become citizens, get the hell out. Okay? I mean, so I think we got to get back to that. I don't know how we get back to that.
Well, that's always the issue. It's how do we do it? That's right.
Elections.
But what I'm saying
we need to win elections.
You can get someone to promise all this stuff, and then they get into office, they don't do shit. That's the problem. We need people, and whether you like Trump or not, He's doing what he said he was going to do.
He's the implementer in chief. You got to give guy credit for that. I'm tired of the argument. Politicians, they campaign all day long, excluding present company. You campaign all day long, then you get in office and you forget everything you campaigned on, and now you become part of the status quo. That's why they hate Trump. Trump got in and he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do,
except for Epstein. But okay,
which
let's wrap it up. Who knows? You won't know until you know, Daddy.
And then there's Vance, and then there's Rubio, and I don't think anybody can argue that these people are serious about implementing. You know that they seem to be cut from the same cloth, different styles.
It seems like Rubio's more serious than Vance, but I like Vance too.
Well, Rubio has the privilege of of being in a position that is largely an executorship versus Vance. He gets to be the VP, and I agree with what he said.
I think
which is great. We'll take it.
I think Vance is a little bit more congenial.
Yeah.
And I like Rubio's style, but I mean...
But he delivers hard news, doesn't he?
Rubio.
But Vance does too. He delivers hard news.
It's not as effective as Rubio, but I like I'm a big fan of... No, I'm just saying.
Because he smiles a lot.
Honestly, maybe I'm being too simplistic. Rubio's a freaking Secretary of State, and he was joking around at one of his speeches. He said, every time I turn around, I have a new job. So he's actually in the job of doing jobs. But I think Vance seems to... He has that sort of cuddly way about him.
Well, I'm not even cuddly. You're right.
But then when you least expect it, what do you say? He gives you the old Catucci. So I don't think Vance is.
I like Vance. Look, I'm a big fan of Vance. I have zero issue with President Vance and Vice President Rubio. I have zero issue with President Rubio, and Vance would not be Vice President.
Vance is there for balance, though, for Trump.
Yeah.
I mean,
let's wrap it up, guys. We're already 45
I'll take him over George Bush and Ronald Reagan.
Oh, yeah,
you had Ronald Reagan doing all the heavy lifting. And Bush was like,
yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
I love that. It sounded
right,
just
guys.
like
him. Thank you for joining in. We appreciate your comments. We'll go back and read them when we get a chance. Have a blessed weekend and enjoy your families. Bye-bye.